Hello and welcome to Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio. This is Stefan, your host, British by birth, American by choice. The Founding Fathers crafted some remarkable documents that led to the creation of a great country founded on liberty and self-reliance. I have lived in the Euro-socialist nightmare, and I'm doing what I can to return this country to the vision that the Founding Fathers gave us. We need to strive to rebuild that shining city on the hill, for without us, the world has nowhere to turn for freedom. For the next hour, I will be presenting news, views, and guests that help keep the true spirit of America alive. And good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever, whenever you're listening to the show. This is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately, British by birth, American by choice, welcoming you to episode 251. Yes, we're on now, on into the next 250 shows. So welcome to the show, coming to you this week from Florida again. Yes, that's right. PCL is back in Florida this week and probably for a number of subsequent weeks. Show will be coming to you from Fort Myers in southwest Florida. Yes, I'm down here for work, and of course it sure beats being in New England, which was one of the other opportunities for which I'd been listed up in Hartford, Connecticut. You may remember a couple of shows came from there late last year, but I think I was lucky there, and I got sent down to Florida instead. So we're back into the next 250 shows, and I'm going to go back to my roots, news and views, a little bit of news and perhaps more views there as well. What do I think about what's going on? Well, there's so much going on. It's the hour time that I have. It's impossible to talk about all of it, but I'm going to pick some items that I think are important, and we'll do that. I want to say hi to Rex, who's just arrived in the chat room. Thanks a lot for being here, and we'll see whether Paul, the other regular listener, arrives. But if you're listening live, and unfortunately Spreaker, it's one disadvantage, doesn't tell me how many live listeners there are. But if you are listening live, get on into the chat room, click on the little speech bubble in that kind of little Spreaker area that opens up when you come to the show, and click on that, and you can chat away in the chat room, and I will be popping in and out of that as we go through the show. So for tonight, I want to start off with my weekly commentary, and let's see what we've got there. So, Patrick Come Lately's weekly commentary. And the first item that I want to talk about is something that the White House and its Pentagon lackeys would like us to forget. And when I talk about Pentagon lackeys, I don't mean the Pentagon in general, because there's a lot of very good people in the armed forces, but there's a bunch of bozos in the Pentagon, especially at the top of the Pentagon. And what would they like us to forget? Well, of course, the Bo Bergdahl scandal. Now, over the last few days on Fox News Channel, there have been a number of commentators talking about the report on what Bergdahl actually did. Remember, folks, this is the second report. The Army had already prepared one before we traded him for those 5 high-ranking Taliban assets. This second report echoes the first report, according to the Fox News commentators, and confirms that Bergdahl is the deserter that his colleagues from his company, so other army people, claimed he was. And let's remember, people were killed looking for him after he walked away, folks. Let's not forget that. Now, today, the Pentagon came out and said, no, it's not true. There is that report's not been made, and it doesn't say that he's a deserter. But they are just echoing what the White House wants, because this puts egg on the face of his mightiness. Because, of course, he stood up there with the parents and said what a great thing it was that they'd got Bo Bergdahl free. A deserter? Yeah, right. But, of course, for the White House, I mean, they have such disdain for the army. They wouldn't know the difference anyway. They would think, well, we got him back. It doesn't matter what he was doing. Well, no honor at all in the White House and in the top ranks of the Pentagon. The Army Chief of Staff supposedly does have the report. I don't think they denied that. But there is no timeline for the release of the report or any timeline for his decision on what action to take. And as Bill O'Reilly said this evening, if that is not telegraphing to us that they are stonewalling this incident, I agree with Bill O'Reilly. I don't know what is. They are obviously telling us that they're going to stonewall it. There is no timeline. In other words, they're going to drag this out as long as they can. It may even take a FOIA request to actually get hold of it. Now, we know this is embarrassing to the king. After all, like I said, he walked in the Rose Garden or whatever it is there at the White House with Bo Bergdahl's parents, said what a great thing it was that he was back. But do the Pentagon leaders have to kowtow to him? Do they have to continue paying a salary to this deserter, this vermin, this scum who caused people to be killed? And whether he did traitorous things, that he actually gave information to the Taliban, but just the fact of walking away from his post and being away and having people going out looking for him and getting shot and getting bombed and getting killed, that is bad enough as it is. But if he did anything traitorous, they ought to take him out and shoot him. So what's wrong with the Pentagon? Why are these leaders of the Pentagon, why are they kowtowing to and doing exactly what the president wants? Are they really so political? And if they are, how dangerous is that? Think about it, folks. If they're politicized, how might they react if a president of a different color, and I don't mean skin color, I mean political color, although it might be skin color as well. What if a president of a different color is inaugurated in 2017? Will he have to purge many of the top people of the Pentagon to avoid a military coup d'etat because Khalif Hussein has installed all these left-wing nutcases? I don't know. Anyway, let's have a look, folks, and see what my second weekly commentary topic is. And this looks like good news. Everybody's seen it. The price at the pump, gas, has come down significantly. It was, $3.60, $3.50, in some places just under $4 a year ago, roughly, maybe a little bit more than a year, but not much. And now they're down close to, and in many cases even under, $2. In Georgia we have a number of places where it's down to $1.80 or less. Now, many of you are very happy with this boost for your discretionary spending. It means more money in your pocket, more money that you can do with things. That's good, and that's going to have an impact on the economy, which is also good. But let's not forget there is a downside to these low gas prices. The low gas prices are a direct result of America increasing its energy output, not just oil, but all the natural gas from fracking. So there's a lot of oil, a lot of natural gas coming out, all on private lands. So King Barry should STFU and stop taking credit for that increase in the energy output. The law of supply-demand has created a huge dip in the price of crude oil, because even though we may not necessarily be creating all that much extra crude oil with the natural gas that's coming out, it still has a similar effect on the world price of crude oil. And so down it goes. It went from close to or over $100 to round about $50. Now, for us, that's such a huge importer of oil, that's good news. Both you see it at the gas pumps, but also basically for the government at the end of the line, right? We've all got to pay for it. However, what's the downside? Yeah, well, with crude at $50 a barrel, many countries have had a major source of income halved. Think about that. So let's look, Russia, for example. The Russian ruble has dropped in value like a stone and dragged the Russian economy down with it. And when the economy is bad, tyrants like Putin will take drastic steps to bolster their image. We've already seen his proxy war in the Ukraine, and you can expect him to continue with that, especially while the price of oil and his currency is so low. Economy bad? Yep. So give the people something else to think about and to be proud of. For example, our glorious victories on the battlefield, even if they are proxy victories, i.e. they're done by so-called Russian separatists. Or what about the Middle East? What might the Iranians do as their economy tanks even further? Remember, they already took a hit because of the first round of sanctions. And although sanctions have been lightened a little bit by this traitorous administration, and they're not going to clamp down on them because even though the Iranians are going ahead with all their nuclear program. But if their economy tanks even further, what are they going to do? Could they take their few precious resources and maybe rush to complete atomic weapons that they can sell to rich terrorist organizations like ISIS and Hamas? Quite possible. It's a danger. What will the mullahs do to stay in power? Because again, if the economy tanks there, things are going to, people are going to be unhappy. They're going to be out demonstrating on the streets again, perhaps. Who knows what could happen there? An unstable Iran is not a good thing. Although, in that case, I don't know, maybe it would be a better thing to get rid of the current things. But what about our so-called ally, Saudi Arabia? There's another one that relies a lot on oil money. Recently, they lost King Abdullah, who's supposedly a friend of ours. So the country is sort of unstable. But what unrest is going to happen when the huge benefits of oil are not accruing to the country? Now, we've got to remember, much of the money from the oil is actually corruptly subsumed by the Saudi royal family. You got to remember, when you have 500 princes, over 500 princes, life can be expensive. And Abdullah has died. I'm going to talk about his successor shortly. But what would, even without Abdullah's death recently, what might have been the consequences of civil unrest? Now, again, we've got to remember the Saudi royal family is large and powerful. Don't forget, over 500 princes, large and powerful. But so were the Romanovs in Tsarist Russia in 1917. Just a few communist agitators were able to show the people the huge differences between their lifestyle and that of the royalty and their cronies. Bingo! The powerful elite were swept away. Could it happen to the Saudi royal family? Anything's possible. The Saudis are aware of the danger of populist rebellions and are building a wall on their northern border with Iraq to prevent ISIS capitalizing on any unrest that may occur in the country. Okay, folks, it's that time again. Time for me to pay the rent. I will be back shortly.
You can lose 10, 20, 30 pounds or more with Maximum Slim's first ever rapid weight loss guarantee. Today, you get Maximum Slim, an advanced fat and carb blocker, absolutely risk-free. The all-natural ingredients in Maximum Slim are a powerful weight loss combination. The Maximum Slim formula turns your body into a fat-burning furnace that supercharges your weight loss. Advanced fat and carb blocker stops the breakdown of sugar so your body doesn't store it as fat. Today, you'll get both of these products absolutely risk-free with no obligation. Only pay shipping. There are no expensive meal plans or exhausting DVDs. Just take Maximum Slim twice a day. It's fast, simple, and now it's guaranteed. Look, you can start losing weight today or not. Go back to your high school days and wear your favorite jeans again. Guaranteed. Call now and get both weight loss formulas free. Call 800-451-0228. 800-451-0228. That's 800-451-0228.
Doc, you gotta give it to me straight.
All right.
'Cause I'm dying here. I mean, take a look at this letter from the IRS.
Oh, my.
This is killing me, Doc. I tell you, it's killing me.
Cheer up, my friend.
Huh?
The tax doctor is here. My diagnosis tells me that you're going to be just fine.
Really?
The tax doctor will not rest until we find you the best possible tax settlement.
Really, Doc?
Guaranteed.
If the IRS claims you owe them $10,000 or more in business or personal back taxes, call a tax doctor right now. We could save you up to 75% if you qualify. Guaranteed or you pay nothing. Call right now for free details.
800-917-8546. 800-917-8546. 800-917-8546. That's 800-917-8546.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us. Oops, almost forgot to turn off my mute button there. Sorry about that, folks. Before I go on to the next news topic, I do want to comment a little bit on Rex in the chat room. He's all by himself tonight, but he certainly got lots to say, talking about the fact that gas is so cheap. Of course, Washington immediately says, oh, we need to increase tax on gas or institute a mileage tax or whatever. You know, as soon as we get a bit more money in our pocket, they're looking for ways to siphon it out. And he did remind us that, of course, when I said about the energy being in America being found on private lands, yes, and on federal lands, it was actually minus 6% during Obama's reign. So it's actually gone down, and yet he still tries to claim credit for this increase in the energy that we're producing. And of course, Bo Bergdahl, consulting with the enemy is treason, was Edwards' comment, and I agree with that. I've said it before. You know, just the fact that we brought this one guy back for 5 of them. We don't negotiate with terrorists. We don't exchange people. And you can say we bring people back. We bring people back the right way. We send in SEAL Team 6 and extract them and bring them out. We don't negotiate. We don't trade with the enemy. And he himself is treasonous, and one day it's going to come out. We won't do anything about it, but he will go down in history as being a traitor, whatever happens. And let's see, comment about Putin. Some idiots in this country admire Putin. I think we should say we should respect Putin, right? We don't have a leader to admire. I agree with Rex totally, but we need to respect Putin, because whatever he does, as autocratic and as bad as he is still a hell of a lot more leader than the little wussy pussy that we have in the White House. And I'm not talking about Michelle, because Rex also mentioned, and I hadn't noticed that. I haven't seen any pictures. Haven't been quite busy today, so I haven't really been watching the news much. But apparently Michelle didn't wear a headscarf in Saudi Arabia, and Rex says, "What does that tell you?" Well, I'd say either she's got a waiver from the mullahs that allows her to do that, or I think Rex is implying that she might have an Adam's apple and doesn't need to wear a headscarf. But dressing as a woman, though, even if definitely if you have if you've got an Adam's apple and you dress as a woman, also not very much appreciated in Saudi Arabia, Rex. So I'm not sure. And anyway, we'll see. But a little bit of fun there. So on we go, I think, to our first topic. And I said I was going to come back to this. I mentioned earlier that Saudi was maybe in a little bit of unrest because of the death of the king. Obviously, the new king has already been crowned, and his name's King Salman. He is the half-brother. He was previously the country's defense minister and deputy prime minister. He has been crowned, and with the lock on power that the Saudi Arabian royal family had, it's likely that they will keep it. But even so, cracks are appearing. But one thing about this half-brother of Abdullah, we are told all the time, is an ally of America. Perhaps he was, perhaps he won't. I won't speak ill of the dead. However, Salman has a controversial history of helping to fund radical terror groups and has maintained ties with several very anti-Semitic Muslim clerics that advocate radical positions that align with these radical terror groups. So he was crowned king last week. And Abdullah was sort of considered a reformer by many, and he had taken Saudi from some of its very radical roots to a slightly more modern situation. But women still can't drive, they can't go out except in the company of a male family member, things like that. And they still have strict interpretation of Islamic law, hack off a hand for thieves, things like that, lashes, etc. The death penalty for gays. Supposedly Abdullah had been a reformer, and Caliph Hussein came to Riyadh today to pay respects to Abdullah, who's already been buried, but also to meet with King Salman, the new king, who supposedly is also supposed to be a moderate friend of the United States. And I think this is just the left wing saying it so. Remember, the left wing says something and repeats it just to be able to make it so. It doesn't need to be true, but if they shout it often enough, it's going to be true. Now, as I said before, throughout his public career in government, Salman has embraced radical Muslim clerics and has some clear funding that has been given, for example, to radical groups in Afghanistan, as well as an organization that was found to be plotting attacks against America. This is information provided by David Weinberg, a senior fellow at the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. For example, in 2001, an international raid of the Saudi High Commission for Aid to Bosnia, which Salman himself founded in 1993, so that's about 8 years later, unearthed evidence of terrorist plots against America. This is something that a former CIA officer and an Israeli diplomat also wrote about and exposed. Salman is also accused by the CIA officer of personally approving all important appointments and spending at the International Islamic Relief Organization, a controversial Saudi charity that was hit with sanctions following the attacks of September 11, 2001, for purportedly providing material support to Al-Qaeda. Salman has also been reported to be responsible for sending millions of dollars to the radical Mujahideen that waged jihad in Afghanistan in the 1980s. In the early years of the war, before the US and the Kingdom ramped up their secret financial support for the anti-Soviet insurgency. Let's remember, we were fighting the Soviets at that time, but we used the Taliban to do that, or what became the Taliban. And Salman, this private Saudi at the time, this prince, was privately funding the war effort in Afghanistan, and it was critical for them. At its peak, he was providing $25 million a month to the Mujahideen. Remember, he's a Saudi prince, and they're rolling in it. And he was also active in raising money for the Bosnian Muslims in the war with Serbia, and he's also embraced radical clerics primarily in Saudi Arabia, who are known for their hateful rhetoric against Israel, Jews, and Americans. In addition, as in his role as Crown Prince, he recently visited Saudi Arabia's Grand Mufti, the nation's highest religious authority, the highest mullah they have, who has asserted that 10 is an appropriate age of marriage for girls, and has called for the destruction of all churches in the Arabian Peninsula. Coexistence, eh? Now, just like that Abdullah tried to present himself as a reformer, some are trying to suggest that the new king is a moderate, who will continue his half-brother's so-called progressive policies. But just look at where Saudi Arabia is after Abdullah. People are being decapitated and flogged by the state in the streets. Folks, Saudi Arabia is going in the wrong direction. Women are systematically oppressed by their own government, and the regime continues to propagate incitement and intolerance. Salman's background, funding Mujahideen abroad and embracing hateful clerics at home, suggests that he is at best a political opportunist who will tolerate continued religious extremism even if he does not hold such views himself, says Weinberg of the Defense of Democracies Institute. So, folks, you have been warned. Things in the Middle East are going really, really bad, and they are not going to get better for a long while. Remember, I mentioned in my weekly summary, Saudi Arabia is building a wall between them and Iraq because they're frightened of ISIS coming down and taking over. Can you imagine all the equipment that we've provided to Saudi Arabia if ISIS were to go through there and depose the Saudi Arabian royal family? It would be an absolute disaster. But ISIS would have their caliphate, and then they can stretch. Then they take over Egypt. Libya is already Islamist. They extend to Morocco, Egypt. So from Morocco, Libya, Egypt, Syria, Jordan would fall, and Israel is going to have a very hard time. And then you've got Syria, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Iran next, and especially if the economy really does go south there, would ISIS be able to make inroads there? You know, Glenn Beck was laughed at a while back for saying the caliphate was coming. You know, I'm afraid to say it, but he told you so. He really did. Okay, folks. I see we're down at the bottom of the hour, so it's time for another commercial break. So stick with me, folks. After this commercial break, maybe a little bit of music.
Patriot come lately. British by birth. American by choice. Just like the Founding Fathers. The voice of the conservative resistance.
Every day, millions of Americans grow more concerned about the future of our great nation. The truth is, over the last century, a small but powerful collectivist movement known as progressivism has debased our politics, our culture, and our currency. We're just a small step from falling into 1,000 years of darkness, as Ronald Reagan warned. Friend, this is Pat Boone with an important free offer on a hot new book called The Great Withdrawal by Craig Smith and Lowell Ponte. This new book explains how we, the people, can end this fatal detour into big government and get back on the path of faith and freedom charted by our founders. Call now for a free copy of the hot new book called The Great Withdrawal.
Call now for your free copy. 800-978-3901. 800-978-3901. 800-978-3901. That's 800-978-3901.
Owe $10,000 or more to the IRS that you can't pay? Call now for immediate help. At the Tax Relief Line, we help people just like you. If you take on the IRS alone, you could be facing levies, liens, even wage garnishments, personal or business tax issues. If you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS, call now and see if you can pay less. They can freeze your bank accounts, even garnish your wages. Call the Tax Relief Line now for immediate help. Our expert team of tax professionals will negotiate your tax problem and deal with the IRS for you. If the IRS is threatening you with levies, wage garnishments, or seizing your assets, call now and see if you can pay the IRS less.
888-789-5043. 888-789-5043. 888-789-5043. 888-789-5043.
This is Patriot Come Lately Talk Radio, keeping the spirit of America alive, a proud member of the Red State Talk Radio Network. And we're back for the second half of the show. Before going to the music that I promised you, I just wanted to say, if you're not listening to this show live and can't participate in the chat room, don't forget you can always email me, stephan@patriotcomelately.us, with your comments and questions. Love to get emails from my listeners. If you don't want to use email because you think it might be intercepted, then just go to my website, www.patriotcomelately.us, and you can use the contact form, which is then automatically directed to me. And that way, a little bit easier for you. I want to remind you the show goes out both live on Spreaker if you're listening live. It also gets rebroadcast on the Red State Talk Radio Network. Great site for a number of other conservative talk show hosts as well. So great listening there. RedStateTalkRadio.com is the place to go. WRSDB, of course, is their call sign. And if you like the show, please tell your friends, and if they want to listen, they can also listen to recordings. If they can't listen at this time of day, they can go to archives.patriotcomelately.us and listen anytime you like, 24/7. The latest show is always at the top of the list there, but you can go back and listen to past shows if you want to listen to some of the special shows. Obviously the 9/11 special, some of the milestone shows, 150, 100, 250, obviously where I have kind of special ones, especially those milestone shows have been kind of Back to the Future kind of things, looking forward and thinking how things might be, and different views in each one of those. So feel free to do all of that. Anyway, let's go on and play a bit of music. Not really related all that very much to... not very much related in any way to what I'm talking about today, but who cares? It's just a nice song. It's another one of those liberty songs, Tea Party songs, and very much in keeping with a comment that Rex just put in the chat room. His FEMA camp books, hardly recommend them. Are selling because things he wrote about 4 years ago are clicking in 2015, and yes, they are. So if you go and read those books today and you think, oh, he's writing about today, remember that they were written 4 years ago. This guy, prescient, very definitely. Okay, let's listen to, this is Steve Voss, by the way, with a nice little freedom anthem here.
Deep in the heart of Texas, back in 1835, they drew a line in the sand. The folks at Gonzales had freedom on their minds. It was all because of a cannon that had kept their colony safe. But then General Santa Anna sent some Mexican troops to take the big gun away. You know what those colonists said? Come and take it if you want it. Come and take it if you think you can. Come and take it, but we'll warn you, you'll have to pry it from our cold dead hands. We want the freedom that God gave us, so you best not cross that line. If you want this gun, you gotta come through us and take it one shot at a time. Well, that started a revolution that no one could put down. Like a wildfire for freedom, it's burning even now. You see, even if you got an army, when all is said and done, you just don't mess with Texas, especially when it comes to guns. The Mexicans went home without that cannon. Come and take it if you want it. Come and take it if you think you can. Come and take it, but we'll warn you, you'll have to pry it from our cold dead hands. We want the freedom that God gave us, so you best not cross that line. If you want this gun, you gotta come through us and take it one shot at a time. Now I know the Constitution, and it gives me certain rights that I will never ever give up, at least not without a fight. So if anybody's even thinking they're gonna take my guns away, like the good old boys down in Gonzales, I got one thing to say. Come on, make my day. Come and take it if you want it. Come and take it if you think you can. Come and take it, but I warn you, you'll have to pry it from our cold dead hands. We want the freedom that God gave us, so you best not cross that line. If you want this gun, you gotta come through us and take it one shot at a time.
And as I said, that was Stephen Voss with Come and Take It, a great freedom anthem is what I like to call them. Can't really call it Tea Party, but freedom or liberty anthem. And as Rex was saying in the chat room, these might become battlefield anthems. And I replied to him, bring it on, bring it on. Anyway, and Rex was asking about my back. Back's pretty good. Off painkillers, though I may have to go back and start taking some of the leaves. I'm not so much the back, but the leg, the sciatica has come back a little bit, and that may be a little bit lifting suitcase in and out of the overhead and stuff like that. This was my first trip since the operation, and who knows what that will do. Anyway, folks, let's go on and let's talk about more news and views. And what I want to do is I want to remind folks about something really bad, because with everything else going on, this is another thing that's getting forgotten, and we definitely need to remember it. This next topic is about the true cost of Obamacare. There is a new report out that American taxpayers are about to get soaked to the tune of about $50,000 for every person who gets health insurance under Obamacare. This shocking admission was buried in a 15-page section of the nonpartisan CBO, Congressional Budget Office, revised cost estimates for Obamacare over the next 10 years. According to the CBO report, the federal government is now going to be spending $1.993 trillion. Folks, that's almost $2 trillion over the next decade, and taking $643 billion in new taxes, penalties, and fees. So that leaves $1.35 trillion net cost to be absorbed by the American taxpayer. Now, can you remember in 2009, when in the wake of all those protests at congressional town hall meetings, where, thank goodness, ordinary people stood up and called out this sham, this disgusting travesty of a bill, Obama vowed, "I will not sign a plan that adds one dime to our deficits either now or in the future." Well, as we know, every time he opens his mouth, the lies pour out. In fact, days before the House vote approving the federal takeover of our healthcare, and let's remember, it was pushed through on reconciliation as a budget bill, which was a total travesty as well by Dingy Harry. Obama was blushing over a fresh CBO analysis that found his healthcare legislation would incredibly shave $1.3 trillion from federal spending and reduce the federal deficit. So we've gone from $1.3 trillion reduction to at least $1.3 trillion net cost. That's 2.6 million trillion difference between what he told us it would cost and what it's actually costing. And they laughed at us Tea Party people who said anything the government costs always ends up costing more. We're already at $2.6 trillion more than we were told it would cost. And something I've said before, but is confirmed by the CBO report, which is perhaps the cruelest joke to the taxpayers, is the fact that Obamacare, which was originally designed to provide 30 million Americans with health coverage, will still leave between 29 and 31 million Americans without health coverage. Folks, doesn't it just disgust you that we let this get pushed through? And now people like my friend Dennis say, well, if we repeal it, and what about what about pre-existing conditions and all the good parts of the law? This is a bad law. We have to start again. Whatever we do, we have to find a good way to do things. And Obamacare is not the right way by any means. Okay, folks, I see we're coming up to the final commercial break, and I have one other interesting topic which kind of connects with what I've just been saying. But first of all, I do have to, like I said, pay the rent. So I will be back in just a couple of minutes.
Reporting from the eye of the storm. This is the worst weather we've seen in quite some time, folks. And I don't see any end in sight. People have been calling in from across the state complaining their basements are flooding. One guy said he now has an indoor swimming pool in his basement. I told him he needs the waterproofing innovations from Basement Systems. If you want a dry basement or crawl space that will weather any kind of storm, you need the patented solutions from Basement Systems. You've seen them on home makeover shows throughout the country. With a lifetime warranty, every solution is custom designed for your basement. Call now for a free estimate, and you'll never have to worry about storms like these again. I'm predicting this storm front is heading your way, so call Basement Systems and relax.
Call 800-205-8665 for your free in-home inspection, or visit basementradiooffer.com. That's 800-205-8665, or visit basementradiooffer.com.
I've owned my company for 14 years now, and I can tell you that payroll is a 4-letter word. I hate doing it. It eats up hours I don't have, and it costs me money I could be saving. But my accountant's too expensive, and I'm not sure who to call. But I know I need help.
We're Paychex, and we take all the hassles out of small business payroll. We save you time and money. It's easy. Call, fax, or give us your payroll information securely online, and we take care of the rest. We calculate the correct taxes, manage payments and direct deposits. We even send out your checks. Payroll doesn't need to be a 4-letter word anymore. We're so sure that we can save you time and money that we'll give you a month's payroll free. Just for calling 877-750-5371. Get 1 month's payroll for free. Call Paychex right now. 877-750-5371. That's 877-750-5371.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us. Okay, final segment of the show for this week, and it's been fun, and I've got one other interesting thing that I'd like to bring to you. And this is about Obama's college scam. Now, I have a friend, Dennis, who actually is in the radio business on and off, and kind of envy him for that on terrestrial stations. I haven't quite got there yet, but who knows, one day, maybe when I retire. And he and I kind of spar a little bit. He calls himself a Republican, but most of the emails that he sends me are very denigrating about anything to do with the Republican Party. And he said, he's very open, he says he doesn't think the Republican Party is the Republican Party, but you'd almost think of him as a is he supporting Obama or not kind of Republican. So very strange. Now, he does say he doesn't support Obama, and very occasionally he'll send things through. And recently he sent one through that is anti-Obama, and so I thought, well, I will share this one with the folks. So his message started off, I've been severely criticized by the left and Obama lovers for saying that his 2 years free community college to all is a scam which amounts to educational crack cocaine. And I agree with Dennis very much on this particular message, this particular post, or email that he sent me. He says, I object for a number of reasons. In terms of the degrees, the vocation ones are a giveaway to business. And a community college is nothing else but a vocational college. They get trained workers and pay nothing for that social service. In terms of the AA degrees, it will encourage people to be in college who don't belong there. Their tuition may be paid, but they still have to borrow to eat and live. So basically it is a scam to subsidize big business and to make big banking filthy rich And to damn it all, in the end, the failure will be paid for by taxpayers for a bailout to Sallie Mae, the student loan government agency. Dennis is very much about money, it's corruption, whether it's on the left or the right, but very much, especially on the right. He says, he reminds us that he taught at Valencia Community College in Orlando for 22 years, as well as being an adjunct at UCF. He went through their faculty training course for higher adjunct pay. The course was designed to have the professors be marketers for the college and the four-year educational system, and what he calls the vulture student loan system. Banks pushing loans which were then sucked up by Sallie Mae. Those banks were waiting like buzzards to swoop down and get their claws into the people after they came into the system, after they'd had 2 years of community college. And he says it's going to get worse if it's all for free. At Valencia College, Community College, he says our 2-year associates of science was a vocational program, often training people for jobs that did not exist. Pell Grants cover some of the people, but kids were borrowing money from the vultures, i.e. the banks, to get through. So if all of the 2 years was free, it is still a giveaway to tax-hating big business. They get a trained workforce, and it costs them nothing. But the scheme is to shuffle most potential 4-year students into community college. The requirements are much more lax than a 4-year school, so everybody gets in. The kids get in and are basically given their grades. They get their ass kissed to stay in school. They're given a worthless diploma and told that they must get a 4-year degree now, since everybody already has a Xerox 2-year degree. They sign up for a 4-year school, and the financial office helps them get a student loan. The Valencia financial office takes up 2 floors of the largest building on their big campus, and is where the big banks have their, as he calls it, birds of prey roosts. So his metaphor is crack cocaine, get them hooked on education by making the first 2 years easy. Now he admits he may be getting too damn cynical in his old age, but he says 35 years of total control by the Reagan far right and libertarian bullshit. Now you see where he's coming from, hiding out as crony capitalism, and he claims that Obama is part of that. But I don't agree with him on that. But anyway, he says as a trained, degreed, certified educator, I've seen the changes and I know the system. Phillips' cosmic universal rule for finding the truth about everything in the universe is follow the money. And in that respect, I think he does have a point. I don't think everything is the Reagan far right and libertarian bullshit. I think we would be better off with some of the Reagan far right and libertarian ideas, because they're a lot better than these left-wing ones that Obama's pushing, which he claims is really right-wing stuff. But anyway, we'll see. Okay, folks, it's almost time to go. It's been fun talking to you from Florida. Should be back in Florida next week, so look forward to chatting to you then. Remember, tell your friends if you would, if you like the show. If you don't like the show, tell your enemies. But just spread the word as much as possible, and I'm hoping to have some guests back on the show in the next few weeks, but just waiting for some things to happen here. And maybe when Rex's next book comes out, I can interview him and Marsha and get them on. Interviews will probably not be live. I'll have to record them, but looking forward to doing that. So, folks, it's time for the end of the show. Ta-ta for now. See you next week.
Thank you for listening to this edition of the Patriot Come Lately Show. Please take what you have learned and share it with friends and family. Better still, tell them about the show so they can listen too. Remember to support the advertisers on the show. It helps keep this show on the air, and I thank you for that. I'm looking forward to joining you on the next show. Until then, keep spreading our message. Goodbye, and God bless America.